r/AskReddit. Redditors who have used one of those TV commercial lawyers, how'd it go? I called one and they took a few days to get back to me. I thought they were getting back to me to discuss my case, but in fact they were only getting back to me to schedule a time to discuss my case. They asked me when would be a good time and I told them, "No, that is a bad time. Your appointment is this date at this time, we will call you." I cancelled my plans and they never called. When they did call, several days later at an even worse time, I said, I don't think I wanted to hire you. You have a very odd grasp of time and I don't think you want my case or respect me at all. The woman cursed me out and called me unprofessional. Bitch, you're supposed to be the professional here. My mom hired one when I was young. She had a misdemeanor charge that was not her fault. She only had one meeting after the consultation with one of the lawyers that was promised on TV to be with the customer every step of the way. On her court date she was expecting her lawyer, but a completely different lawyer came. Lawyer didn't really give her a reason why that happened. This lawyer was not helpful to my mom at all. The lawyer didn't really speak up for my mom that much. Before they got into the courtroom, they were talking. My mom had to repeat parts of her story 2 or more times because that lady was incompetent for her to understand. My mom got lucky that the judge believed in her case and didn't press charges. Also, my mom speaks limited English and she wanted a lawyer that knew Spanish to help her translate whatever she didn't understand. The court sent in a worker to help translate whatever my mom didn't understand because the lawyer could not. The court worker honestly helped my mom more than her lawyer. I called them about getting disability payments. I initially was not happy about the lack of communication and did not really think I could win, especially because it's mostly my mental health. I pretty much just held my breath for 2 years going through the whole denial/appeal process. And at the end of those very long 2 years I got a letter that said I won my case. Not me, but my friend was in the 7th grade, he was riding his bike back from school. He was on the sidewalk and was about to cross an alley that ran between 2 buildings. As he was crossing, a big delivery truck was pulling out. Hit my friend, he broke both arms, a few ribs, and had a pneumothorax. The truck driver ended up being drunk and my friend got the settlement money put into his college fund. But I'm sure that would have been the outcome even if he didn't call the ad on the TV, seems like a pretty cut and dry case. A friend of a friend used to work for a Jim Adler office, I think there are multiple. He said it was a referral mill, in that they wanted to get the most amount of business possible, but that they were actually pretty good in a limited sense. With the experience, they had pretty good contact with all the insurance companies and could cut through the red tape and get to the decision maker, as opposed to the phone jockey who is tasked with saying no. However, he said they did little to no litigation, so if they could not get a settlement, they had to pass the case to some other law firm that wanted to go to court. What I liked about them was that they seemed pretty upfront about everything. They explained to me the good and the bad. Luckily it turned out good and wasn't as much of a hassle as I thought it would be. When my mom suggested getting an injury lawyer, I was like, I don't want to deal with something that's gonna drag out forever, but it was resolved in about 3 months. Yup, friend of mine got a DUI, I found him the skeeziest lawyer I could find. He got the DUI thrown out at trial almost immediately. Literally called himself the DUI lawyer. He has like a 70% success rate in having dues thrown out because he knows the laws better than the cops who make the arrests and has dues thrown out daily due to either some small error in the paperwork or the cop's statements not lining up exactly. My buddy's DUI was thrown out because the cop stated that he stumbled out of the vehicle, but on camera he doesn't stumble, so the judge had to throw the case out because, in the words of his lawyer, if the cop is willing to lie about something as simple as my client's deportment prior to the arrest, how can we trust he didn't tamper with the results of the breathalyzer? Thankfully the 6 months of not having a driver's license up to trial taught my friend his lesson and he no longer drinks and drives. He finally realized $50 for a cab is a lot cheaper than $10,000 for a DUI lawyer. I'm a defense attorney in a field where there are a lot of attorneys on the other side advertising their services. In my personal experience, the largest ones of these firms are absolute mills. They hire young attorneys who, in many cases, aren't much more than a warm body with a bar license who can pick out the right template and sign it, and then present the bullet-pointed arguments in court. They also generally are incredibly overworked, and rarely will do anything to push your case because they simply don't have time. Most of the time, it's me driving the case along trying to get it done. Half their day is spent in court responding to defense motions, just trying to get them to do more than a half-assed job on something. I can't tell you the number of times I've tried so hard to settle cases only to get completely ignored. I literally can't give money away when it comes to some of these firms. Don't get me wrong, if your case has merit you're going to get paid. But you're getting paid because it's the right decision for the defendant to make, whether morally or as a business decision, not because your attorney earned you that money. So, I didn't use them because they were on TV. I worked in law, asked a buddy of mine, who is also a lawyer, who he'd recommend, and he told me this firm. He said, anytime I go up against them, I absolutely hate it, because they're good. I have to work twice as hard. And this guy was good, so I'm like, wow, if even he's impressed, that's saying something. So I called them up, told me so-and-so recommended them, and explained my case. The case is still ongoing, 2 years now, but they have been wonderful. They were very thorough, protecting me when I needed it, and when the case grew too big for their firm, they passed me off to a really swanky expensive firm that I never would have been able to afford if I were paying out of pocket. I've spent years with fancy pants lawyers, but even I was a little intimidated by these guys. I respect that the TV lawyers knew their limitations. As good as they are, that doesn't mean anything if you don't know when to say you're not the right person for the job. They'll get less money now assuming we win the case, but they took it as far as they could and then called in the big guns when the case got too big. I'll definitely recommend them in the future or use them again if, hopefully never, I need that kind of representation again. Older sister had a coworker whose son called a TV lawyer. He works at a giant chain retailer in an Etwell state and where unions are told to fuck off. He slipped on an unmarked water puddle and tore up his knee worse than a standard ACL tear. Employer said they would take care of everything. He called a local TV lawyer when employer took care of nothing and basically said get back to work. The response he got back from the lawyer was basically I don't piss where I sleep. He was later advised to seek workers' comp through the state. Hope he's getting proper care and compensation for that now. Dude's in his mid-20s and already will need his knee replaced every so often the rest of his life. Well, I went in for my consultation, and the secretary looked like she just rolled out of bed. I didn't get to meet TV lawyer guy, but one of his fresh out of law school minions. This kid is wearing sweats and a hoodie. We do the consultation, says he'll be in touch. A few weeks go by, and he calls me to tell me my case isn't worth their time. So I got hit by a girl texting and driving, while I was putting my newborn son in his car seat. I was off work for 2 weeks because my back hurt like hell and was all bruised. I didn't go to the ER after the accident, and didn't have medical bills, so to an injury lawyer I'm a worthless client. I settled with insurance on my own and I did just fine. I don't understand the tone of irritation I'm seeing in comments like yours. Attorneys work for money, just like everyone else. If there's no settlement, there's no money in these cases for these attorneys. Maybe the system should be set up different, but the way that it currently is they really can't go around taking cases that aren't worth any money. It was worth quite a bit of money, but they didn't take it because they couldn't use the medical bill multiplier. It's all good though, because I got 100% instead of probably nothing after they take their percentage plus fees, which always seems to equal the rest of your settlement. So you're mad your attorney didn't want to take your case when you had virtually no damages? And judging by your comment, I'm guessing they were doing contingent work. All that means you expected them to do years of work for almost no money? And you're surprised by this? There wasn't virtually no damages. The girl broke her mirror off on my back and was an inch from smushing me between her car and mine, while I was holding my 2-week-old son. I had nightmares for a long time about losing him or getting killed. My back was messed up for weeks, and my job requires me to be on my feet all day. I had to use vacation time while I was off. How much would you have been paid during those 2 weeks of work? I mean, missing a few weeks sucks, but it's not like you were permanently or gravely injured if you skipped going to the ER. Still doesn't even remotely sound worth it for most lawyers, doesn't sound like a high-figure case at all, and things become difficult when you didn't go to the ER even. Did you settle for significantly more than 2 weeks worth of money? Did it take more than 2 weeks of work to get that settlement? I mean, it sucks it happened and I'm glad you got a settlement from insurance, but I don't blame a lawyer for not taking your case tbh. I'm telling you, you didn't have many damages. You had the mirror for property damages. Your fear issue isn't worth much at all to a jury. Whether or not it should be is a different matter. You might be able to focus on mental anguish claims, but that requires you sought mental health help but also exposes all your prior mental health records to discovery. Even if you made it through all that, it's still questionable if a jury would even award much for that. Now, with your kid in your hands, that certainly makes a better argument for you, but it's not a guarantee. You also stated you didn't go to the doctor right away. That means the insurance company is going to laser focus on that, and their argument would be it clearly wasn't bad enough for you to go to the doctor, so any back pain claims at this point are just you trying to milk the poor defendant for something they didn't do. Juries tend to buy this argument too, by the way. Next time, go directly to the hospital or you're going to lose the claim. All this means your case would have required the attorney hiring a shrink to the tune of several $1,000s, require extensive work on your case for 18 to 24 months, with no guarantee of success other than a few $1,000s by a jury, which wouldn't cover the attorney's expenses, much less their time, all because someone almost hit you. I'm not saying it wasn't a scary situation for you, but from a personal injury standpoint, you didn't have a case. It may not be right, but it is what it is. You can't expect an attorney to devote 100 hours and thousands of dollars on your behalf with a very iffy case at best. Had you or your kid been hit, then it would have been a great case. But juries almost never see it that way. So you have your entire background dug into for years with minimal chance of success at the end, and the lawyer devotes a lot of time and money to your case they could have devoted to a more sure win, and hence money, as they are running a business. It isn't surprising they turned your case down. Now, if you wanted $3,000 real quick, that may have been possible, but that would likely be about as much as it was worth, unless you have a very generous jurisdiction or some other facts you haven't talked about yet.
I'd love it if you liked and subscribed.